What if everything you thought was wrong with you was actually evidence of something remarkable? What if the reason you don't quite fit in, the reason certain conversations exhaust you, the reason you'd rather be alone than pretend to enjoy someone's company? What if none of that was a flaw? What if it was a signal? I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I am about to share is not a motivational speech. It is not flattery. It is a pattern that shows up again and again in the lives of people who quietly operate at a different level from the crowd. People who were never given a trophy for it. People who were actually told at some point that something was wrong with them. And I want to be clear, this is not about IQ scores or academic degrees. Some of the sharpest minds I have ever studied never finished school. This is about a different kind of intelligence. Rare, quiet, powerful, and almost always misunderstood. If you have ever felt like you think differently from the people around you, keep watching, because by the end of this, you are not going to just feel seen. You are going to understand yourself in a way you probably never have before. Let's get into it. 1. You prefer solitude over poor company. Most people are terrified of being alone, not because they genuinely enjoy constant company, but because silence forces them to confront themselves. And for the average person, that confrontation is unbearable, so they fill every quiet moment with noise. Social media, pointless conversations, background television, anything to avoid being still. But you are different. You have always been a little comfortable in your own silence, maybe more than a little. You do not need a room full of people to feel like your time has value. You do not need someone validating your choices out loud before you feel confident in them. You recharge in quiet. You think clearest when the noise dies down. And here is the thing that most people misread about this. They call it antisocial. They say you are distant, unapproachable, that you think you are better than everyone. But that is not it at all. The truth is, your standards for company are simply higher than theirs. You are not withdrawing from people. You are protecting your mental energy, and only minds that operate at a high level instinctively understand that energy is a limited resource that must be managed, not wasted. Purposeful solitude is not loneliness. It is discipline. It is the ability to sit with your own thoughts and not panic. And that is genuinely rare. Drop a comment right now. Type "I choose silence" if this is you. Let's see who's watching. TWO, you question everything instead of believing blindly. Here is a truth most people are never taught. The ability to doubt is a cognitive skill. It requires effort. It requires the mental courage to say, wait, is that actually true? Who told me that? What is the evidence? What are they not showing me? Most people do not do this, not because they are incapable, but because questioning is uncomfortable. It disrupts the comfort of certainty. It creates social friction. When everyone around you believes something, pushing back is socially expensive. Most people are not willing to pay that price. But you do it instinctively. You hear a headline and your first response is not to share it. It is to interrogate it. You hear a popular opinion and something in your mind quietly starts looking for the holes. You do not accept authority simply because someone is louder than everyone else in the room. This is not cynicism. Cynicism is just bitterness wearing a philosophical coat. What you have is something different. It is independent thinking. It is the refusal to outsource your conclusions to whoever shouts the loudest. And here is why this matters. Every major shift in human history, every discovery, every revolution in thinking has been led by someone who refused to accept the consensus, someone who asked a question that made the room uncomfortable. The world does not move forward because of people who agree. It moves forward because of people who dare to question. Pause for a second. Think about the last time you questioned something everyone around you believed. Type it below. I read every comment. 3A. Superficial conversations drain you. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that highly intelligent people feel, and almost none of them can explain it accurately until someone names it for them. It is the exhaustion that comes after spending 2 hours in a room full of people talking about nothing. Gossip, who said what someone is wearing, complaints that circle back to the same place they started, conversations that produce zero new thought, zero new insight, zero growth. You walk away from those conversations feeling emptier than before they started. Not because you are arrogant, not because you think those people are beneath you, but because your mind is always reaching for something more. Depth, substance, a real idea, a genuine exchange where both people leave knowing something they did not know before they sat down together. Your mind does not idle well. It wants to move. It wants to explore. And when the conversation refuses to go anywhere, your mind quietly checks out, even if your body stays in the room. Philosophy, strategy, human psychology, why things work the way they do, what is broken about the systems we all live inside, what could be different. These are the things that wake your mind up. And the frustrating reality is that most conversations never go there. This is not a superiority complex. This is a hunger that the average person simply does not feel at the same intensity that you do. If you've ever sat in a room full of people and felt completely alone because the conversation never went anywhere real, type deeper in the comments. You are not alone in that feeling. FOR. You feel things deeply but rarely show it. This one surprises people, because intelligence and emotional depth are rarely discussed together. We have been trained to think of smart people as cold, analytical, detached. Logic on one side, feeling on the other. But the reality is far more complex. Genuinely intelligent people tend to feel things with an intensity that most people around them would not believe if they admitted it out loud. They feel other people's pain before it is explained to them. They pick up on the emotional undercurrent in a room without anyone saying a word. They carry the weight of things that technically have nothing to do with them. The difference is that they have learned, often through painful experience, that showing the depth does not always go well. So they contain it. They carry it quietly. They process it alone, and from the outside they look perfectly composed, unbothered, unaffected. But inside they are everything but. This containment is sometimes mistaken for coldness, for not caring, for being emotionally unavailable. And that misreading can be deeply isolating, because the truth is, you care perhaps too much. You feel perhaps too much, and the performance of not feeling is simply the armor you built because the world did not always handle your depth with the care it deserved. That is not a weakness. That is sophistication. The ability to feel deeply while maintaining composure is one of the rarest emotional skills a human being can develop. Fiv, you learn from failure faster than most people learn from advice. Pay attention here, because this is the one that separates the people who eventually win from the ones who spend their whole life getting ready to. Most people are destroyed by failure, not temporarily, structurally. A failed business, a failed relationship, a public mistake, a decision that did not work out the way they planned. These things do not just hurt. They redraw how those people see themselves. They become part of the story those people tell themselves about who they are and what they are capable of. But then there is a different kind of person. Someone who fails, feels the full weight of it, and then almost immediately begins taking it apart. Not dramatically, not in a way that performs resilience for an audience. Quietly, analytically, what happened here? What did I miss? What did I assume that I should not have assumed? What would I do differently? What does this teach me that I could not have learned any other way? You are that kind of person. You do not waste your failures. You mine them. You extract the lesson while everyone else is still mourning the loss. And because of that, you do not repeat the same mistakes at the same rate as the people around you. This is not because you are emotionally numb to failure. You feel it deeply, but you are not imprisoned by it. You understand at some fundamental level that failure is expensive feedback, and expensive feedback, if you're paying attention, is the most valuable education you can get. Think about a failure that taught you something nobody else could have taught you. You do not have to share the failure. Just type, "I learned," if that resonates. SIX, you cannot fake enthusiasm for mediocrity. This one gets people in trouble, professionally, socially, in relationships, because the world at large runs on a certain level of performance. The performance of being fine with average. The performance of celebrating things that don't deserve celebration. The performance of acting excited in rooms where the ideas are small and the ambitions are smaller. And you cannot do it, not convincingly. Something in your face, in your energy, in the way you engage or fail to engage, gives you away. You try to show up with the enthusiasm the moment seems to call for, but it is not there, because your internal standard for what deserves genuine excitement is significantly higher than what is in front of you. This is often read as arrogance, as being difficult to work with, as thinking you are better. But strip that judgment away and look at what is actually happening. You have a high internal standard that you apply consistently, not just to others, to yourself. You are harder on your own work than anyone else ever is. You are the harshest critic of your own ideas. You throw out more than you keep, not because you are lacking in confidence, but because you know the difference between something that is good and something that is merely finished. That standard, that relentless refusal to celebrate the ordinary, is the engine behind every extraordinary thing that ever gets built. 7. You are never fully satisfied. There is always a next level. And here it is, the final sign, the one that is both the most powerful and the most quietly painful. You have never, not once in your life, achieved something and felt genuinely, fully, permanently satisfied. Not because you are ungrateful. You are grateful. You can hold gratitude and restlessness at the same time. But the moment you reach a milestone, something in you immediately recalibrates. The horizon shifts, a new level appears, and the thing you just accomplished begins to feel like a baseline rather than a ceiling. Most people interpret this as a curse, as a sign that you will never be happy, as proof that you are impossible to please. But they are misreading it entirely. What you have is called a growth orientation. It is the psychological architecture of people who go further than the people around them, not because they are more gifted, but because they are constitutionally incapable of stopping. The ceiling that satisfies the crowd is the floor you build your next phase from. Yes, it comes with a cost. The cost is that you rarely get to stand still and feel finished. The cost is that you are often more aware of the gap between where you are and where you are going than you are of the distance you have already covered. The cost is that the satisfaction most people feel, you have to find in the motion itself, not the destination. But here is the other side of that cost. People who feel permanently satisfied stop moving, and people who stop moving stop growing, and people who stop growing in a world that does not stop changing begin to fall behind without realizing it. Your restlessness is your compass. It is always pointing forward, and that is not a flaw. That is a feature. Here is what I want you to sit with. Every single sign I just described. The preference for solitude, the questioning nature, the depth you require from conversation, the emotional intensity you contain, the way you process failure, the refusal to celebrate mediocrity, and the relentless pull toward the next level. Every single one of those has probably been used against you at some point. Someone made you feel strange for it, different, difficult, too much or not enough. But look at that list again. Really look at it. Every single trait on it is a component of how exceptional people think. Not people who were born lucky. Not people who were handed easy circumstances. People who built something real. People who saw further and went further and refused to let the size of the crowd around them determine the size of their vision. You are not broken. You are rare. And rare things are rarely understood by the majority. Now I want you to do something. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 7 signs hit you the hardest. The one that made you pause. The one that made you feel, for maybe the first time in a while, genuinely seen. And if this video gave you something, share it with one person who you think needs to hear it. Not because I'm asking you to, because that person in your life, who has always seemed a little different, a little misunderstood, a little too deep for the room they are standing in, they need to hear this today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. I will see you in the next one.